Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Frame. Now, as you've seen in the past, if you've been watching these videos, in this series we kind of show you one of our images, take it through Lightroom, and then just show you a few sort of editing techniques that we'll use to edit the particular images. So for me, in today's episode, I've chosen an image from Uganda, which is for me one of the most amazing experiences and also gives incredible photographic opportunities. So let's get straight into it. Okay, now before Uganda, it's if you haven't been there before, you're obviously photographing in a rainforest, so it is quite dark. The surroundings are quite dark, and also the species that you're photographing, chimpanzees and gorillas, also naturally very dark animals. For me personally, in the past, I've loved using a 70 to 200 mm lens, 2.8, which comes in very handy in those low light conditions. But you know, if you want to get a little bit more close-ups, you can use a 300, maybe a 400 as well. But that's sort of pushing it a little bit. I think for me personally, my go-to has always been the 70 to 200 mm lens, or even like a 24 to 70 if you want to like capture more sort of animal and environment type images. Let's dive into the image and have a look and see how we're going to go about editing this particular image. Okay, so there's the image that I've got now of a gorilla, and if I just show you some of the settings over here, so you can see my shutter speed was about 1/160th of a second at 2.8, and my ISO was up to 4000. Now, like I said, it is very dark in those forests. But, you know, so you have to shoot high ISOs in order to get that sort of shutter speed that is fast enough. And what I love about this particular image are the eyes of this gorilla. Now, if you've photographed them before, they do look up quite often. And if the light hits those eyes beautifully, you get that sort of orange glint in the eyes, which is what I really enjoy about this image. But for me, I shot this in landscape. But for me, just straight off the bat, thinking about it, I'm going to try and crop this into a portrait image and potentially also change it into black and white. So let's do that first of all. So if you're in the cropping tool, if you hit X, that takes it into portrait. You can maybe bring this down a little bit. I want that sort of that focus to be on that gorilla's eyes looking up. Maybe something like that, and then let's hit V and change it into black and white. Okay, so that for me is a good start, and kind of where I'd always start with, from an editing point of view, is always crop first before you start editing. Okay, now with black and white, similar to the colors, I'm going to start with my whites and my black points first, and this will just give the image a little bit more contrast. As you can see from my histogram over there, I still have a lot of space to pull to the right, and maybe not as much to the left, but that's often sort of these dark areas in the background, so that doesn't matter too much. Let's pull that, start putting that to the right a bit. Okay, somewhere there, and then let's pull these blacks down a bit as well. Okay, now in this forest, like I mentioned, it is quite dark, and your gorillas are quite dark. So what often works well is if you underexpose a lot, you really get sort of a lot of those dark, rich, sort of moody colors and sort of moody looks and feels in your image as well. If I go down here to just below the tone curve, I've got individual colors that I can also work on. So remember, even though this is a black and white image, I've still got colors in here that the camera picks up. So let's see, if I take the greens down, that should affect that background quite a lot. See what's happening with that background. Okay, so I'll pull that down a bit. And a nice sort of tool to use, this little box here, if you click on it, you'll see, if you hover over the image, you'll see these parts on the right, this panel here will get illuminated, and that means that's the particular color that will get affected. So if I go over the chimp here, I'm in the gorilla, you'll see the blues, purples will get affected, and over here the yellows are going to get affected there. So if I drop these yellows down now, see what happens. Drop those yellows down quite a bit, and then maybe with the blues. So that's going to affect my gorilla. I don't want to affect the gorilla too much. I want that background to be affected a bit more. Now, there's a few potential distracting elements for me. These leaves here are quite bright. So if I go to my highlights and I just pull my highlights down a bit, you see immediately those leaves, that distracting element goes away a little bit as well. One tool I want to use in this is if I go into my masking and I go into a radial gradient. If I pull this over the gorilla now, and the idea behind this is I'm going to darken that background quite a bit. So I don't want the gorilla to be affected. I want to work on that background. So we're going to hit invert. Maybe just make this a bit smaller. And you've seen I've gone with quite a heavy feather as well. It's going to maybe even go up a bit more. And we'll start off with the shadows. Let's pull those shadows down. Okay. And then we can even go with the exposure. Let's pull that down as well. Have a look at how that's affected it now. That's beautiful. So now you've almost got like a spotlight effect on the gorilla's face. Now I'm going to do another mask, another radial gradient, and now I'm going to work on the gorilla's face. And let's swing that, just swing this around a bit. Let's maybe make that a little bit smaller. I just want that area to be affected on the gorilla. And we'll just lift those whites up a little bit. Maybe just a touch with the exposure, not too much at all. Okay, that's starting to look pretty good. If I have a quick look, full screen, I love that, love the look of that. Maybe one more thing I'm going to do is just from this bottom here, this bottom area, just to darken that up a little bit as well. So I'd love to use the linear gradient. And we're going to pull that up quite high up. Okay. And then let's just pull this down a bit here. So we're not getting that full effect of the linear gradient. And we just drop the exposure there a bit. Maybe drop the shadows a bit there as well. Okay. We can maybe do a similar thing to the top here as well. So I'll do another linear gradient, and we're going to pull that, make it quite big. And I just want that area at the back it's still quite bright, just to darken that a little bit. Drop the shadows a bit, and a little bit with the exposure there. Okay, let's have a quick look at if we press Y, before and after. I love that. It's such a moody image. Yeah, just love that. Those eyes for me that's what it's all about. Probably two more things that I'm going to do here is I just want to get a little bit more texture out here. So we can get a radial gradient and just sort of pull it over the face of this gorilla. Okay. You probably could have used the other one that I pulled over, the one that I lightened the face up a bit, but I want to affect more of the gorilla's face on the side as well. And we're going to go down to texture, and we just lift this texture up just a little bit. And that'll just sharpen that area around the face, just sharpen that up a little bit. Okay, something like that. And then in my overall sharpening, I'll also go here with the masking, hold Alt. So I want to pull this. Remember now, whatever goes black is not going to get sharpened anymore. Let's pull this all the way there. Probably somewhere around there, maybe about there, yeah. And we're going to lift this amount up to about 60 or so. Okay. And that's it. I think that for me, that sort of brings out what I want out of the image. I love the sort of dark backgrounds. So it's something to sort of keep in mind if you're photographing gorillas, to really underexpose, make that background nice and dark, nice and rich. And bring those eyes out a little bit more. So the focus here, or the exposure, is on the eyes. Okay, so that's what I'm exposing for. I'm not worried that the background is really dark. For me, it's all about this. And with that dark background, it really just makes the gorilla pop a bit more. And also takes your viewer's eyes straight to the gorilla's face and to the eyes over here. All right, guys, so that's it from me for this one. A nice, simple, easy one. Like I said, I love photographing both chimps and gorillas. if you're going to one of these destinations, important to remember your camera gear that you're going to take. A 70-200 2.8 for me works extremely well. And then try and underexpose quite a lot. Really sort of darken that background, and also that'll make the gorilla or the chimp's face just pop up. And then also look for when they sort of stare up at the sky, and for that light to hit those eyes beautifully. That will create incredible images for you. And it's actually, although you can get some tricky situations sometimes from a light point of view, they are actually fairly easy to photograph, especially gorillas. Because of their relaxed nature, they don't really move around as much as the chimpanzees do. But incredible experience. And for all of our trips, you'll do 3 gorilla treks, which gives you the opportunity of photographing different families, also different surroundings. So really maximizing your viewing and your photographic opportunities, also because you only get to spend an hour with them. Well, that's it from me for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you guys have any images of ours that you'd like us to do one of these episodes, please let us know. We're happy to do that. And if you want to possibly join us in Uganda for the gorillas or for chimps, get in touch and let's make it happen for you. That's it from me for this episode. Have a good one. Cheers.